You know when they do like that sound effect.
Yeah.
Like
So maybe on the next one. That's just
there.
where you see the white.
Yeah.
So when you're ready.
Hi guys, welcome to my channel. Today I have a very special guest, as you can see, Kenroy Malcolm. Thank you for joining me today.
I think you got this the wrong way around.
It's my moment to shine on your channel.
Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Kenroy here. Thank you so much for joining me once again. Now in today's video, we'll be talking about 15 things that we've learned since getting our mortgage. Now today I'm joined with a very special guest, my partner in crime, my best friend, and of course my wife, Sapphire. Now I thought we would have her on the video today because obviously I didn't get the mortgage all by myself. And while I've learned a lot from getting this mortgage, it'll be quite interesting to get your viewpoint, Sapphire, to see how you actually found the process of buying our first home.
Just want to say thank you so much for all the love, support. We really appreciate it all. Now, if it is your first time here, don't forget to like, share and subscribe. Thank you so much. Honestly, Kenroy couldn't do it without all of you.
So like I've said before on this channel, we bought this property around 2 years ago in December of 2019. And since then, we've learned so much about owning our own property. And also the actual process of buying our first home. Now I hope that these tips that I'll be sharing today will be able to help you if you're on your journey right now, or perhaps you've been through some of this before. And if you have any tips that you could share, don't forget to put them in the comment below. So I have to confess that these tips that we'll be discussing today, Sapphire has not actually seen them so far. So she'll be coming to them for the first time, so it'll be quite interesting to see how she actually found these tips and to see what feedback she can give from her point of view. So I'm going to go straight into it right now, and the first one is it doesn't have to be a stressful ordeal. And what I mean by that is when you get your mortgage, a lot of people often say that it's the most stressful thing you can ever do, but we actually found it quite the opposite, that it wasn't as stressful. I know for myself personally, I'll get your views in just a second, Sapphire, but I didn't find it so stressful. And I think part of the reason for that is that I did as much research as I could to get to know the process and what it's like to actually apply for a mortgage and how long it takes. So I found it quite stress-free in that aspect. The mortgage advisor that we did through Nationwide, our bank at the time, was really helpful. The communication was great. And so, you know, we completed on when we were supposed to have the transaction completed. So it was a pretty stress-free ordeal for me. Of course, there were things in there that we found was, you know, we weren't expecting. But overall, I thought that it was a pretty stress-free ordeal. What about you?
Yeah, equally the same. I think I was piggybacking on you, if I'm being honest. I think for us, so you're very organized, goal orientated. Nothing just happens by chance. So we spent, you know, quite a bit of time saving up. We were living at my mum's. Thank God for mother-in-laws and mothers and parents who will have you at home. I guess that helped to reduce a lot of the stress in terms of being able to save. Then the entire process, it all happened quite seamless. So yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. The conveyancing though, we used an online conveyancer, and that was, I guess, the first time using a complete online platform to complete a very hands-on procedure. And there were some times when, you know, that we weren't able to get the information as quickly as we wanted it, but we got around it because we did a lot of the sort of hard legwork in place for them. So I'd say overall, having your goals set, you know, having a clear decision-making process and knowing what you want to do, that really helped to lessen the stress. Yeah,
I definitely agree with that. I think having a good knowledge of the process of applying for a mortgage and what you actually need is what helps to make it as less stressful as possible. So don't listen to people who say that it's stressful. It can really be a smooth transaction. Now, there's always factors which are going to relate to you personally. However, if you go into it thinking that it's going to be a stressful process, it probably will be. So the next thing that we learned, and this was, you know, we sort of knew this before we actually went into the process of going through the bank, Nationwide at the time, is that you don't actually have to go directly through the bank in order to get a mortgage. And this is something which I wish many people will actually look into. If you don't actually need to, there are a few circumstances that might mean that you have to. However, if you don't have to go directly through the bank, I highly recommend that you seek advice from a mortgage broker. I know others that have used a mortgage broker since, and even after we bought this property and we've remortgaged, we've gone through mortgage brokers because they give you so much more flexibility. They're able to search the market and give you the best deal possible. While if you go with a specific bank, you'll only get the best deal that they have to offer. So I think that's something you definitely need to look into.
I think normally when you think of, getting a mortgage, you're thinking of a reputable organisation, and so questions may flag up. But I guess it's good if you know anyone who could recommend a mortgage broker already, having had experience with them, then that would be half the job done, because you'd be being experiencing a professional service and someone who's well experienced and knows the market. So I think that's all I have to add, really.
Okay. So rolling into the next one quite nicely is that not all mortgage brokers charge a fee. Now, this was a misconception. A lot of people actually think that if you go to a mortgage broker, they're going to get you a better deal, but they're going to charge you. So does it really add up? But the reality is that a lot of mortgage brokers don't actually charge a fee. And the reason for this is they actually take a commission from the lender to which you sign up your mortgage with. Recently, while we were speaking with a mortgage advisor, that's when I actually learned this, so I didn't know this at the time. It is quite recent knowledge to me personally, and mortgage brokers get the fee from the lender. If they then charge you on top, they're basically just making extra bit of money for their overheads and to increase their profit margin. But you can actually get mortgage brokers who will not charge you a fee. They'll just take their commission from the lender themselves. So you can actually get a broad spectrum of lenders without actually paying any fees. So, that's something that I've definitely learned since getting our mortgage. I'm not sure if you actually know this, Sapphire, but a bigger deposit doesn't always mean that you'll get a better deal. And yeah, it's a weird one. And the simple reason is that if you can imagine mortgage packages are packaged in certain brackets. So for example, a 0 to 5% mortgage, you might get the same rates. And from 5 to 10, for example, you might get a specific rate. So it all goes up in certain brackets. So if you wanted to put down 25% deposit, it might make no huge difference in terms of the interest rate, because within that bracket, whether it's 20% or 21 or 25 or possibly even 30, you will still get the same amount of interest rate. So that's something that, I didn't know before. I thought if you put down more, it's going to give you better deals, but that's not always the case. So the good thing when you're going through the process and you're with a mortgage broker, you can ask them this and they will point you in the right direction to say, whether it will be advantageous for you to put down more money at the start or keep some back. And the reason why I say this is, we did this and we only used a 10% deposit when we were buying this property. And we actually had some money left over so that we can use it for other things like renovations and so on, because you don't know what's around the corner. Because, it could mean a lot if you're going to put down a 10% deposit and you're going to end up with having no money left over once you've moved in. You never know what could be lurking. So it's definitely recommended that you have something, stashed away. If the boiler breaks down as soon as you move in. We've all heard stories.
Save for a rainy day.
Exactly. So that's something that I definitely think that we, would really benefit you if you know that you might not need to put down all your cash all at once.
I never thought that was a thing.
Yeah. So the next one, which goes quite nicely, and I think we did this quite well, is that when we were getting, going around viewing properties, seeing what we could afford, we made sure that our salaries, at the end of the month, after we paid our mortgage, after we paid our bills, that we had adequate amount of cash left over. And I know it seems like a no-brainer, but a lot of people, they look for the house of their dreams, and they might end up spending every last penny each month to pay that mortgage. But then you find that you end up with no money at the end of the month, and you just go into overdraft, and it just feels like a vicious cycle. All in the name of getting that perfect house. So you could have bought a slightly cheaper house, maybe compromise on a few things, but at the end of each month, you can live comfortably.
That's true.
And you end up finding it very difficult to actually make ends meet.
And then I guess if you find then the mortgage process stressful, and then you find meeting the bills stressful, it just makes having a mortgage overall and owning your own property quite stressful.
Absolutely.
So no, that's true.
So the next one which we learned was that you actually need to have insurance on the property and life and critical illness cover before you actually finalize on the mortgage. I don't know, did you know about this before we actually went through the process?
No, we didn't even have like personal insurance cover or contents cover or anything before getting a mortgage. No.
When did we actually, do you remember? I think it was when we met with our mortgage advisor. She sort of made us...
Yes, and your mum told us about it as well.
Yeah.
Because she was going through the process and recommended her insurance broker. Is that what you call it?
Yeah, I think so. And I think what we decided to do in the end, because we were new to it, we just wanted to make sure that adequate cover was in place. We actually just went with the bank, while we're signing up with all the documents, we just went with Nationwide's life cover, critical illness, I think it was, that if anything was to happen to us, the mortgage would be covered and so on. But we found that they were more expensive than if we were to shop around. So I think hand in hand with that, you will need to have adequate insurance, but I would definitely recommend that you try and search around, use websites like Compare the Market, and so on to get a better deal on insurance, because why pay more than you need to? So that's something that we definitely learned. So now the seventh thing that we've actually learned is that some bills are actually better when you pay them up front. Now, I know not everyone has money to pay their entire council tax bill up front, which in an ideal world sounds fantastic. But, a lot of bills you can actually save money on if you pay them up front, much like with your car insurance. I know that's a big one. Rather than paying a monthly installment, which obviously will be easier to manage. If you have the money and if you have the cash to just pay all up front, you can save yourself a lot of money over several bills. I mean, for example, we've got 2 cars with 2 insurance. So for our car insurance, we actually pay those up front. And we find that, it's sort of a peace of mind, it's out of the way, we budget accordingly. And, we just get that one out the way, really. Yeah. So maybe at some point we'll be paying our council tax in full. So the next one, guys, is be prepared to renovate or redecorate. Now, some houses, when you buy them, you can move straight in and nothing needs to be done. But the reality is that we all have our own taste. And the reality is that when you normally go to view, the person who owns the current property do a very good job of masking over some stuff, the cheeky wallpaper here, a coat of paint. And it's only after you've completed and moved in, you realize the cracks in the wall. So, be prepared to decorate, and sometime you might need to do a full renovation. When we moved in here, we knew that we would have to do some decorating and, perhaps even some renovations. The kitchen wasn't, needed some work, and other rooms. You've seen some of my DIY videos on this channel, and by all means, guys, check them out right now.
Brilliant.
I'll put some links in the description below, and I try my best to do as much of it as possible so that we can basically save money, because at the end of the day, I'm a firm believer that if you can do something yourself and save yourself some money, then you should definitely give it a go.
And I would say just take your time. You now own the property. Take your time with any redecorations or renovations. Once they're not essential, if there's not an essential need for it, as Kenroy said, save for that rainy day. You might, over the winter need a new boiler. So things that are quite cosmetic, don't stress yourself out about it.
So the next one, guys, and I think many homeowners can relate to this, is that you never feel like you've truly finished. In terms of redecorating, moving things around, painting, renovating, extensions, the list goes on and on and on. And I don't know about you, Sapphire, but how do you feel? What stage do you think we're at the moment in terms of, doing up the property and getting it to a place where we can just relax and be comfortable?
Yeah, well, I quite liked it. It's a nice homely feel here already, but I think especially the floorboards, they were a bane in my existence, so we're so happy. So for the most part, I'm pretty easygoing, quite chilled.
Yeah, I mean, it would be really nice if we could do an extension on the ground floor to give us some more space at some point. But again, just take your time, just be prepared to work and to save and to plan ahead, because it takes time to actually get to where you want to be, especially because when it comes to property and building, a lot of these stuff costs a lot of money. So you just gotta budget yourself and take your time, but the work is never finished. Sometimes as soon as you're finished doing something, you painted a door this year, in a couple of years time you might have to paint that door again, for example. So that's one of the joys of being a homeowner, but at the end of the day it's yours. It's an investment, it's adding value, and over time the price of it will continue to grow. So it's a win-win really. So the next one that we found that was really, really useful, and I guess not a lot of people talk about this a lot when it comes to buying a property with someone else, and is to have a joint account where all of your bills come out of. I'm going to throw this one over to you. How have you found that? Because I think that you've been really good in setting up joint accounts and just to keep track of everything. So how have you found it so far?
Well, I guess this was something that we were doing from earlier on. I guess when we got married, my main goal was like, yes, we're going to have a joint account, and so I guess we've been able to keep a track of all our expenditures. I love spreadsheets, so we'll be having like, what's our income, what's our outgoings, and then that's coming out of our bank account, and it really does help you to realize like what money do you actually have, and what what your saving goals are and what your overall goals are. So no, I am all for joint accounts, and it's really good. It builds on your relationship. There's that transparency as well. So what's mine is yours and all that.
Yeah, sure. Now, but on a serious note, I absolutely agree. And at the end of each month we can pay a certain amount of money into that account to cover all our bills. We've got separate accounts which we can save in, and that's another thing. It's good to have separate accounts where you can still continue to save, so that way all the money doesn't just go into one account and you end up using it. So I definitely think this is a major one. Try and keep all your bills as much as possible coming out of one account, so that you can keep track of everything, to make sure that you're not spending money that you think you have but you actually don't.
True.
So the next one that I'm going to be talking about is one that really, really affected us, if I'm being honest.
What is this one?
You should know this one already, and is watch out for clauses within like deeds and contracts. Oh yes.
Especially when you've studied law.
But on a serious note, so when we bought this property, we really loved it. It was in a great location, close to where my brother lives. And even though it was the most expensive property that we viewed, we really liked it. It had certain charm to it. Good size, great value. But there was one catch that we found out halfway through the process, after our conveyancer was going through the process. And that clause was that there was an easement or a right of passage for our neighbours to the left of us to actually pass through our property and gain access to the shared communal courtyard at the back, which at the time was a big sticking point. But we loved the place so much that we pushed through. We got a verbal agreement from both neighbours that they were willing to relinquish that. I'll let you talk about what happened after that.
Yes, so I think I think the main thing here is, be persistent and follow through any agreement. So we had a verbal agreement, but then whilst we were in the process of completion, one of our neighbours was also in the process of selling their property, which we wasn't aware of. So we had that neighbour's agreement, and so we were just going along with it. The excitement. It was around December, so Christmas time. It all happened so quickly as well. I think we were also thinking a lot about finding work here, so those were more of our priorities at that time. So I guess this applies to anything in life. If you know that there's something, get it in writing. That's it. Get it in writing.
Absolutely.
Unless you're prepared, to contest it. But we do really love our neighbours, and they do make use of the shared access. So I guess now going forward, we will have to think outside the box, because we love our home and wouldn't want to move.
I think the takeaway from this is, when you're going through all the contracts, make sure that you know what you're getting yourself into. Anything that is said from joint parties, get it in writing, so that you don't get into a situation that you've moved and then they've changed their mind, and you can no longer do what you want to do with this property. And at some point I think we might have to do like a little tour showing you what we mean in regards to this rite of passage, and how it can actually be a real hindrance. We had big plans for this place, but we're now having to think outside the box because of that. We're still happy, we're still making it work for us, but it's something for us to, definitely consider going forward.
I think an amazing quote that I live by, my favourite colour is yellow, is when life gives you lemons, make lemonade.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I think that's
just roll with the punches.
Absolutely.
Or else then it will become very stressful and unbearable.
Yeah. So the next thing that I'm going to talk about, and I think this is something we've learned, is when you're buying a property, perhaps you've got dreams and ideas about what you'd like to do with this property. Maybe an extension, maybe an annex, going into the loft, whatever it is. Think about whether or not, if you were to go down the planning permission route or permitted development, whether or not it would be acceptable or not. And this might mean you actually have to do some research into what the rules are, at least the basic ones, when it comes to planning. For example, if you're thinking of putting on a massive extension at the back, depending on, the layout, the size and so on, you might not be granted that planning permission. So again, this is something to bear in mind. We were planning on converting the garage downstairs into additional living space and merging the walkway between, that rite of passage. While we probably wouldn't need planning permission as such, I did do some research as to whether or not this is something that we were able to do. So I think that's something that you have to consider if you're thinking of expanding or changing anything on the property. So we're down to the last three now, guys, and number 13 is one that I think all new homeowners can always say, yeah, it's definitely gonna happen. You're gonna love giving tours to family and friends. In fact, before you can even invite people around, people will be coming by to say, I can't wait to see your new house. Pandemics aside, which obviously hasn't been particularly great for having friends and family around, you will definitely want to give tours, to family and friends, having them come over, spend the weekend or whatever it is. So it's definitely one of the biggest achievements, after purchasing your property, is having friends and family come around. And I didn't realize just how much of a buzz you get from it, until we sort of moved in. I remember the first time when we came in, the house was completely empty and we just sort of sat on the floor, just looked at each other like, is this really ours? Like, have we actually done this?
We have keys.
We've got keys. It's just an amazing feeling. How was it for you?
Absolutely amazing, and all the sacrifices that we made, it was now actualized, like, wow, this is where we are. And I think for me it's just been great. I love cooking, so it's about having friends, family over, as you said. Being in a pandemic, that hasn't happened as we would love it to, but it's not saying that it won't in future. Hopefully things will improve. But for Naomi, she loves having play dates, having her friends over, having the garden space, and having, we have lots of family and friends from London, and they love to come here and just spend time and relax. And that's just so great to know that we've created so far just a lovely atmosphere to have family, and we're very family orientated, so it's just amazing.
Brilliant. So number 14, just before we wrap up, is about how much of an important bonding experience actually buying a property is. A lot of people, they come out of renting for a long period of time where you didn't actually own the property, so you had to sort of be tiptoeing around the landlords, the things that you could do or you couldn't do. You had to keep the house in a certain condition and so on. But once you've actually purchased the property for yourself, the freedom that you've got is just, you can't compare it to renting at all. And, all of the other things that come with it, the bills, the decorating, fixing up the garden, what you're planning on doing in the future, you name it. All of this helps to solidify relationships. Children getting their own rooms.
Yeah, she prayed for it.
Yeah, my daughter's been praying for her own room, and when we were finally able to give that to her, decorate her room as well. It really does give a really good bonding experience within families.
Just to reiterate, you get to put your own stamp on, the rooms, or how you want the walls. I know something I was really big on was putting up picture frames.
Yeah.
Having so many beautiful pictures just stored away and being able to just decorate as you would love to. So no, it's been amazing.
Yeah. Absolutely. So the final one, guys, and I thought I'd just throw this one in there, and you know, going through the process and seeing how much we've learned and the mistakes, and we did make some mistakes, and seeing how much we've learned, I definitely feel as if I would love to buy again. Hence one of the reasons why I've created this channel. And you know, I don't know, how is it for you in the experience? Do you think that you'll be happy with purchasing another property?
What I would say is you're very passionate about property, and I think you know that should have been said in the first question, and that's why it was so stress-free. So because of that, and because of your passion and you just explaining things that I didn't really understand a lot about property, most certainly like really understanding the value of property and how important it is, and if that is something that we can invest in, of course.
Absolutely. So I'll say that you can definitely end up getting the bug. Sometimes you buy your first property and you know it's not your forever property. You're thinking, okay, it's a good starter home. You do the renovations, the decorating, you know, fix up the garden, whatever it is. And then, you know, you start going back on Rightmove, or perhaps like me, you probably never stop.
Never stop.
And you're looking around to say, oh, this house, this will be a nice project. And before long, you're thinking about maybe kids have come into the mix and you need more space. And yeah, so I'll say that this is definitely something that we've found out, that we're actually thinking about buying an additional or more properties to invest in, or just to move on to have more space as a family. So, you know, be prepared to get that bug of buying houses.
It's a good bug.
It is a good bug, as long as you know what you're doing, do your due diligence, and you know, it's something that can really be rewarding in the long term.
So all that I was going to add really is that, you know, when you have the expert here, I was a complete novice. My knowledge of property was all about just homes under the hammer. And I'm thinking, are we going to go to auction? Are we going to be buying a complete tip? And, you know, it taking us so long to renovate. But no, I think you have to have a passion for property, one, if it is something that you are thinking of going into further investments, or, you know, just there's so much out there to learn. So once you're prepared to put in the hard work, because, you know, all of this knowledge that Kenroy has acquired has been self-taught, so it's absolutely an amazing experience to see your growth and your knowledge, and to be able to share this with us. Most certainly, I believe people will get the buzz if they know that there is a real livelihood that could be made out of it as well.
Absolutely. As there you have it. I hope that what we've shared with you today has been really, really helpful. I thought it would be really good for us to just share our experience of how we found the whole buying process. I know that there's a lot of people out there who's thinking about buying their first home, and you know, I really hope that this, you know, would be a very beneficial thing for you in sharing some of our experiences. As always, guys, don't forget to comment down below. Let us know what you think. How have you found the buying process? And if you haven't done so yet, let us know what you might be thinking in terms of, are you nervous? Are you thinking it's going to be stressful or difficult? And if there's anything that you want to know, please drop it in the comment below and we'll be happy to help. Don't forget to comment, like and subscribe to this channel. We really, really do appreciate it, as it continues to help our community grow, so that we can continue to bring you content like this.
So Kenroy, thank you so much for joining me today on my channel. I know that everyone's going to be liking, commenting on all that you said, honestly. Thank you so much for joining us today. This is Sapphire saying, I'll see you when you see me. Take care.
You trying to take over my channel?
Of course, I learned from the best.
I might have you back on.
Aw, thank you.